YouTube? It's your girl Miss T, and today we will be reviewing the new film Richard Jewell. This film asks the question whether the practice of social profiling and stereotyping is the public saving grace or just a public menace. Let's talk about it. Today I have my homegirl with me, Kimora.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, no problem. I'm so happy that you made it. I call her Q Dog. So today we will be reviewing the new film Richard Jewell. This film was directed by Clint Eastwood. I was very excited about its release because Clint Eastwood has a lot of films that I have enjoyed in the past. Gran Torino, The Mule, $1 Million Baby. This film also has an all-star cast. Kathy Bates plays Bobby Jewell, Richard Jewell's mother. We have Sam Rockwell in the film who plays Richard Jewell's attorney, and I love Sam Rockwell. He played Wild Bill in The Green Mile, my favorite slackjaw yokel. And then we also, last but not least, have Paul Walter Hauser, who actually plays Richard Jewell. And I haven't really seen him in a lot of films, but according to his filmography, he has been in BlacKkKlansman and I, Tonya. And I've seen both, and I don't remember him at all. At any rate, so just a little fun fact about this film. Originally, Jonah Hill was set to play Richard Jewell, and Leonardo DiCaprio was going to play his lawyer, G. Watson Bryant. And these two together, the magic that they made in Wolf of Wall Street, if they would have been half as good as they were in that, this movie would have been off the chain. But they weren't, so. So guys, we're going to give you a little summary about this film, and then we'll come back and let you know what we thought about it. So during the 1996 Summer Olympics in Atlanta, security guard Richard Jewell discovers a suspicious backpack under a bench in Centennial Park. With little time to spare, he helps to evacuate the area until the incendiary device inside the bag explodes. Hailed as a hero who saved lives, Jewell's own life starts to unravel when the FBI names him the prime suspect in the bombing. This guy put me in the mindset of George Zimmerman. He's just a person that loves the law. I think Richard Jewell said that he studied the penal code every night, and this was back when he was a mail clerk, I believe. So he was a little obsessive.
I think that's good though, because like you want to learn everything from the back of your hand, so when you get there and they ask him, you can just like answer it off straight.
Very true. Very true. Early on in the film, he meets his soon-to-be attorney, G. Watson Bryant, and he tells him what his plans are as far as law enforcement, and he tells him not to become an asshole. So, do you think that after he did become a security guard and everything, do you think he became an asshole?
I feel like when he was at the school, he was doing too much, but he wasn't really being like...
I mean,
he was just like...
Yeah, but the reason why he was working at the school is because he got discharged from being a sheriff's deputy. And at the time that he was working at the college, he was actually pulling people off the highway when he did not have the authority to do that. So it's like, on one hand, you want to praise Richard for, you know, being on top of his game, but at the same time, he is taking liberties and overstepping his bounds.
But I don't think he meant to in any harm or anything. I think he was just like, I'm going to practice. This is what I've been told to do. If I do this, this might prevent this from happening.
I mean, I get it, but we have rules and laws and orders. You can't overstep people's liberties and rights. That's not cool.
But he had a good heart, so it's not too bad.
I mean, a lot of officers have a good heart, but they take it too far.
Yeah.
So with all of that being said, Richard was working at the community college because he lost his job, and in those few opening scenes, he loses that job as well because he's overstepping his boundaries as a security guard. He's doing like illegal searches and he's not an officer, he's only a security guard. So in the beginning scenes, they're just showing you how Richard is very much so pushing the limits of his authority. And as the scenes move forward, you can see why the authorities thought that he might have been a prime suspect in this bombing. So after Richard is fired from the college, he finds another job as a security officer. I don't know how he keeps getting these jobs, but that's how law enforcement does. You can just transfer. At any rate, he finds another job as a security guard working for AT&T. They're going to be putting on a concert at the 1996 Summer Olympics. So, I mean, as much as I'm bagging on him for overstepping his boundaries, he follows protocols. He follows procedure and the law to a T. And if it wasn't for him being a little more intuitive and overstepping his bounds, lives wouldn't have been saved that day. So what do you think about that?
I thought he did good because the other cop, like the actual cops, they were just standing around. He's over there.
How you doing?
He was bringing them drinks, but they were just like chilling in the middle. They were like kind of in the crowd. They weren't like walking around being observative. And he was just like, even the first time when the guy had like the bag of the sodas,
right?
It looked similar to the bag it looked very similar, but like he was still on top of it, following them.
Very good points, because 9 times out of 10, you know, it's not going to be a bomb in the bag, but there's always that one time that there could be, and you need people like Richard Jewell, the assholes, the people that are doing too much. You need those kind of people to do their jobs. Okay, so what's another good point?
When they were showing the bomber walking past, they only showed the bottom half of him holding the bag, and he just sat the bag down at the bench.
Because that's probably what people would see, because so it's like a scene.
Nobody's really paying attention to him.
Yeah, so that lets you know how on point Richard Jewell really is for him to spot that. Like, he knew exactly what to look for.
Yeah.
So, kudos to Richard. As far as the scenes leading up to that, did you think it was suspenseful? Do you think that Clint Eastwood did a good job at keeping you on the edge of your seat? Because at the end of the day, we already knew that there was going to be a bomb, but how'd you feel?
I thought it was pretty good because like they were just showing everybody having a good time, and like they showed the pregnant lady walking past.
Yeah, so it kind of put you at ease.
And then like when the 2 black girls, they was taking pictures of each other, like on her mom. So I thought that was
I think the way he developed that was really good.
Because like you can like see like all the people that are about to go through something very traumatic.
Right. And I think that like the average person probably wouldn't have been paying this dude, especially he's a flashlight cop. You out having a good time, you probably not going to be paying attention to this dude. So I thought that was very good, and the scenes leading up to that were very suspenseful. So in the following scenes, Richard Jewell is pretty much acclaimed the hero. Even though 100 people were injured and 2 people were actually killed, it could have been a lot worse. So the media is praising him. He's getting the respect of his fellow officers, and he's even offered a book deal, almost within the next 48 hours. So all of this hard work that Richard Jewell has put in, even though he's been let go of of being a law enforcement officer a couple times, it seems like he's finally getting his time to shine. And for Richard Jewell, this is a big deal. You know, like I said, he was just fired a few times. He's not the typical cop. He's overweight. He's not that attractive. He lives at home with his mom. So this was a very big deal for Richard. And through all of that, he's still very humble. He's a very likable guy in that respect. So next I want to talk a little bit about stereotyping and social profiling and why they can be so dangerous to our society. Richard Jewell was named the prime suspect because of a stereotype. He fit the stereotype of a white, angry, frustrated male that had failed at being a law enforcement officer. And even though in some cases it's true that guys like that are known, or can be known to go in and shoot up schools and do all manner of heinous acts, but at the same time that's not always the case. And I feel it's like a slippery slope. We do the same thing to black people. We tend, well, I don't, but law enforcement tends to profile them and stereotype them unwarranted. So what do you feel about that?
About what you were saying? What? About which part?
Do you feel that it's always a good idea to stereotype people and profile people? Because, on one hand, stereotyping and profiling, we could be saving lives. On the other hand, we could be destroying lives. So do you agree with that?
No, I feel like it's okay to be cautious, but at the end of the day, you need the facts, you need evidence. And
Absolutely.
They had no evidence.
Absolutely.
Because the first thing they should have done was time how long it takes from the park to the phone place.
That's and they did that, right.
And they were just like, because everybody was saying that's not enough time. And they were just like, oh, he's the suspect because just to like get somebody.
Those are excellent points. Excellent points. It's like, it's one thing to have a presumption or an assumption, but like if you have no evidence, you can't do that to people. This one's Q dog. So Richard Jewell, on the surface, on the outside of things, he was a prime suspect. Later on in the movie, we find out that he was arrested at one point for impersonating an officer. He had unpaid taxes for like several years. Several years. And then he also had an apartment full of weapons. And I don't mean like little handguns. He had assault rifles and machetes and all kinds of crazy stuff that he said that he uses for hunting. But that's what all bombers say,
Yeah.
That's what they all say. So at the end of the day, I kind of feel like social profiling and stereotyping, maybe it is necessary. But you got to have a little bit of actual evidence. So as much as stereotyping and social profiling done at the hands of law enforcement can be dangerous, it's just as dangerous in the hands of the media, because they have such a broad audience and they have a huge outlet to put these narratives out into the public. So we have the reporter Kathy Shrugs, I think it was Shrugs, who put the fact that Richard Jewell was a suspect out into the local paper, the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, I think the newspaper was called. But not only did she put the information out there, she put it out there in a very biased way, and it spread like wildfire. So what do you think about the media's role?
I think it played a big role because there's a lot of fake news and like everybody, they'll just take it.
They just ran with it.
Yeah, there's no facts saying anything. They're just like, oh, they're claiming he's the suspect because this and this and that. But
and it was all
like,
opinion.
They got blood samples, they got this.
Exactly.
It was, oh, he's a bad person, and they had nothing.
Exactly.
But everybody's so caught up with the media, like, oh, if you post this, it has to be true.
Yeah, and they want to sell papers, so they're willing to do anything. One of the things that was very controversial about this film was the fact that I guess Kathy Shrugs was supposed to be sleeping with the officers to get leads for her stories in the newspaper, and I don't know, I kind of feel like it ain't no fun when the rabbit got the gun in this situation. It's like somebody is taking information that they got about you and they're spreading it just like she did with Richard Jewell. Mm-hmm. So, oh well, girl. One of the things that was very controversial in this film was the fact that the FBI and law enforcement in general was conducting very shady practices as far as trying to get a confession out of Richard Jewell. They were downright trying to trick him into confessing. So what are your thoughts on that?
I feel like it was wrong because from the jump they could have just said, you're a suspect now, we need to grab you for some questions, but they're like, oh, come in, we want to talk to you about this because you're doing good.
Right.
And they're like, oh, we want to practice how it's going to look like, how the confessional will be, make pretend to sign this.
Right.
Like,
it's like they
can't do
had
that.
no, like you said, back to evidence. They didn't really have any type of probable cause or evidence to actually bring him in for questioning. So they were lying.
Yeah, and then they were trying to, like, when the lawyer called and they hung up on the lawyer, like, you can't do that. That's an amendment.
Right. So it was just like they were breaking all types of constitutional rights and laws and everything. Richard Jewell got railroaded by these officers. It was like a total abuse and misuse of power. These people have, the power to destroy people's lives, and that's exactly what they did to this man. It was real sad to see. So this film covers basically 88 days of hell for Richard Jewell. And in the final scenes, we get the final interrogation interview of Richard Jewell by the FBI. And like we've been saying all along, they basically had nothing to back up their claims. And Richard Jewell gave them a good talking to and what for, and they let him go. So what were your thoughts about that last scene?
I thought it was like very like a breakthrough for him, because before he's just like, oh, since they told me to do this, I'm gonna do it because they're right, I'm one of them.
He's putting them on a pedestal.
And then like towards the end, he's like, you guys are wrong and you guys can't hold me because you guys don't have anything on me. He's asking them.
Yeah.
So it's like he's standing up for himself, and like throughout the whole thing, he's like, no, I'm gonna help you carry my stuff out.
Right. His loyalty to law enforcement was really to his own detriment. It's like he put upholding the law before his own well-being, Later on, we find out that some guy named Eric Rudolph was actually responsible for the bomb, and that he had set off several bombs around that time, and apparently nobody even looked into this guy as a suspect. So like Richard Jewell said, all the time that they spent harassing him, they could have been looking for the actual person that did the bombing. I'm sure there was a lot of money and time wasted on the pursuit of Richard Jewell, and it was a total waste.
I liked the raw emotions that were in the film, like how in the beginning when they were showing everybody happy, and it's like this just happened like 1 second, everything's tragic, and they were showing everybody, and then the mom
at the concert,
and then the mom during the press conference and all that stuff, when she was crying, I felt like connected to the characters. Then I cried a couple of times.
Did you cry a couple?
Like I really felt their pain.
One of the things that I really liked is how they basically showed how social profiling and stereotypes can ruin somebody's life, and in our minds we can build these preconceived notions about people just because they have a certain look, fit a certain stereotype. But I also liked how people having those same preconceived notions can also save lives. So I like that about the movie. Yeah. Okay. So what were some of the things you didn't like about the film?
Not really.
Not really? Okay, so I'm going to give my little constructive critique. After the bomb went off, I thought that the movie moved really, really slow. This film was about 2.5 hours long, and I think we could have done without a strong half hour to keep it all the way real. It was a little dry. It was a little dry. I didn't connect with this film like I did $1 Million Baby or Gran Torino. Like if you had to give it a rating out of 5 shots of Hennessy, how many shots would it get?
5 shots of Hennessy.
5 shots of Hennessy.
I'd say probably like 2.
Yeah, so give it more than that. Damn.
I was cause like the things that you were saying too, like the length of the movie, they could have incorporated so much more.
Yeah.
And it was a little draggy.
It was a little draggy.
And some of the stuff was really repetitive.
Right, it was like, okay, we get it.
Yeah.
So I would give it 3. I give it 3 shots of Hennessy. It was just it was just alright. So guys, thank you so much for watching this review. We hope you enjoyed it. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe and hit that like button. Thanks again, and we'll see you next time. Peace.